Welcome to Strip Cover, where we squeeze the bigger picture out of literature. I am Adrian Ford, and we are here for another poetry discussion, which will appear in two separate playlists here on the channel. Number one being the poetry discussion playlist. Number two being the Charles Bukowski playlist. The poem in discussion today is known as The Aliens, and I'm going to be honest, just right off the top, I didn't want to do this poem. There is a repository of Bukowski poems online from which I retrieve most of these poems, copy and paste them into this document, and go from there. And they're all sort of aligned by the titles. You get to see the titles, click on the title, get the poem, etc. Fairly common internet stuff, you know what I'm saying. And I kept clicking on this title, reading the poem, and thinking, no, I can't do that one. Then I click on the title. It's an interesting title. Read the poem, and I like it, and think, I can't do that one. Do another poem. A couple days later, click on the title, read the poem. I can't do that one. But I realize that I have to do this one, and I'll get into why. The Aliens. You may not believe it, but there are people who go through life with very little friction or distress. They dress well, eat well, sleep well. They are contented with their family life. They have moments of grief, but all in all, they are undisturbed and often feel very good. And when they die, it is an easy death, usually in their sleep. You may not believe it, but such people do exist. But I am not one of them. Oh no, I am not one of them. I am not even near to being one of them. But they are there, and I am here. And that is a separate poetry discussion. So, this poem, The Aliens. What was it about this poem that made me keep coming back to it, made me keep reading the entire poem and deciding against it? There is, in this poem, nothing brilliant. There's no rhyme, there's no meter, there's very few insightful or useful line breaks. It's just sheer Bukowski, right? It's just Bukowskiing about. But I make an example on this channel oftentimes of Rupi Kaur. Not a fan of Rupi Kaur, but I cannot help but notice what it is that her poetry has done. It has brought a great deal of readers to poetry, and I have made perhaps the snobbish argument that there could be some scaffolding from this, people who find Rupi Kaur and fall in love thereafter with Emily Dickinson and climb their way over to Sylvia Plath, etc. But that need not be the case. There's one conceit in this poem. There's one conceit. The poem is titled The Aliens. The poem is about people who live an enjoyable life. The conceit is that being normal, not being an alien, is what makes you uncomfortable. That uncomfortable discomfort, leading a miserable type of existence, that is really what it means to be human. It's the aliens, don't you know, who go through life with very little friction or distress. That's the aliens. That's what they do. Not us people, not us real people. It's the aliens that do that. That's the conceit. That's it. That said, it's a conceit that I think is probably pretty easy to, with which it is probably pretty easy to identify. We understand this poem. You woke up on the wrong side of bed this morning. I see it in your eyes. Got it in your tone of voice. I didn't want to do this poetry discussion. I worked 8 hours. I walked 11 miles. I did another video before this. Now I'm here doing this. I don't want to do this. I don't want to be here. There are people for whom these transitions from work to exercise to productivity would be flawless, would be seamless. These people would have happy family lives. They're aliens, don't you know? That one conceit in this poem, that's not even a brilliant conceit. It's not even necessarily a particularly compelling conceit. Just a conceit. It's decent. One sleight of hand, one turn of card, one little conceit, and Bukowski has us. I mentioned Rupi Kaur because I had a plan. I was going to do a video titled Complete Breakdown of All the Literary Merit in Rupi Kaur. In whatever the title of her collection was. I don't remember what the title of her collection was. But it went over very well. It sold a lot of books, and I thought it was pretty vapid. My goal on that video, I was going to sit here. I was going to press record. For 30 minutes, I was just going to stare at the camera. That was my plan. Don't say anything. There's no literary merit there. Many people would say the same thing about this poem. Many people would say the same thing about Bukowski's canon writ large. I'm not sure they'd be wrong. And that's the trick, isn't it? To find that level of literature wherever our readership takes us rather than trying to go to the literature with a capital L. There is something here in this poem. Is it the 18th sonnet? No. Is it I wandered lonely as a cloud? No, but that's closer. Is it I died for beauty? No. But there's something here. And that's enough. Something is enough. Do I think that this poem should be revered? No. Should it be read? Maybe. But if there is someone out there for whom this poem really ran home, someone struggling, perchance, someone who can't seem to get it right, and they read this poem and it connects with them, as it might, it's easy to see that point of connection, that one small conceit. It's easy to see why someone would be turned on by this poem. And in the event that they are, Bukowski has done the deed, not just for himself, not just for his reader, but the deed for poetry and literature in general. I think the world would be better off with more readers than fewer. For every converted reader, we get closer to that world. Someone who writes poetry such as this, which might be considered to be vapid by the wrong reader. This is the wrong poem for that reader. For some other reader, this is the exact right poem. And maybe it brings someone to literature. That is all I have for this poetry discussion. If you enjoy or appreciate what I do here, hitting the like button really does help me out on the channel, as it tells YouTube to share this video with other literature lovers. And if you find yourself here by chance but not design, consider hitting the subscribe button in order to stick around for more literature discussions.